It's that time of year again, annual meeting and budget season. For volunteer board members, this means crunching numbers, planning projects, and facing the dreaded question, are dues going up? For homeowners and anyone looking to buy into an HOA, it's the one time of year the financial health of your entire community is laid bare. So today, we're opening up the playbook. From the pitfalls board members need to avoid in September to the 3 financial documents every home buyer should ask for before closing. We're showing you how to navigate budget season without drama. Stick around, you won't want to miss this. Welcome to Let's Talk HOA, the podcast giving you an inside look at the world of community management in Lake Norman and beyond. Presented by Main Street Management Group. We're your source for relatable stories, expert information, and a transparent look at the industry. So if you're ready to get the inside scoop, kick back, grab a coffee, and let's talk HOA. Welcome back to Let's Talk HOA, presented by Main Street Management Group. I'm your host, Kelly Hawkins, and joining me today, kind of reluctantly, because is Diana Bonneau. Thank you. Thank you for letting me talk you into this.
Thank you for that intro.
Yeah. Diana is our Director of Management at Main Street Management Group, so she's in charge of all the managers, but is camera shy.
At best.
So fall is officially here, which means managers across the country are knee-deep in financial reports, board meetings, and annual prep. And today we're taking a deep dive into community finances and how to best position your HOAs for success. Whether you're a board member trying to draft a realistic 12-month plan, a homeowner attending your annual meeting, or a prospective buyer doing your homework, this episode is your complete survival guide to budget season. Are you ready to do a complete survival guide?
Let's do it.
All
It's
right.
my favorite topic.
Really?
No.
Okay. So I wanted to start talking about board members, like let's help the board members out, then the homeowners, and then talking about buying a house in an HOA and what you need to know. So my first thing I wanted to start with was what if you and I could just say whatever we wanted to a board right now, what would we want them to know right now as we head into budget season?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing when we start talking budgets and drafting them is, do you have any projects you want to tackle for the next year? Do you have the funds for it? Do we need to get bids? Because now would be the time.
Yeah, please tell me now, because in about 2 weeks, I'm going to be knee deep in budgets, not just yours, 10. Most managers have 10 others. You know, if you have accounting only like we do, I think I do 47 budgets in 3 months. So please, for the love of God, ask me what you want me to get a bid for now before we get into budget season, because every budget has a budget meeting with the board, and then you have to get the annual meeting out. So there's meeting prep, and then you have to do the minutes. Like, it's a lot. So if you want something done in 2027, ask your manager right now. And you only need 1 bid. That's the other thing. They are like, please get 3 bids to resurface the pool. For a budget, they just need to get 1 because it's going to be the best number, right? If I get you 1 bid for the pool, and then when I go to do the pool, I get you the 3. If I get a higher bid, I won't use it. I have a good bid. And if I get a lower bid, great. So 1 bid is good for budgeting, in my opinion, and it's going to save them a lot of time. And also, if you're doing this project next year, that bid may change. This is just a budget number, right?
Yeah, and I think what I prepare boards for is, you're going to get a bid for today, but it won't, if you're not looking to do it next year, maybe we just up it by 6% to give that cushion, because they won't lock in. We don't know what gas is going to be, materials are going to be, but we can kind of add that buffer,
right,
to at least have a number to shoot for.
And then how are you going to pay for it? Have you thought about this? Like, are we going to raise dues? Are we going to do a special assessment? Are we going to get a loan? Are we going to use reserves? Do we have the reserve funds to do it? Ideally, yes, that's the answer. We have reserve funds. But if you don't, how are we going to pay for it? Have you thought about that? Because a special assessment, if we're going to do that, requires a vote. And that's a very different vote from just ratifying the budget. If we're going to get a loan, we have to start budgeting your loan payment. And also, getting a loan may have a vote. Sometimes the board cannot decide to get a loan on behalf of the association. They have to go to the community and say, can we get a loan? Right? There's different things that have to be done. You have to think about, you can't just spring this on the manager at the budget meeting and then expect them in 30 days to get it all sorted out and then the meeting notice out. And then also, I would say if you're getting a loan, can you pay it in 5 to 7 years? Because I think people get loan fatigue in an HOA because it's not the same people. The houses sell and then people come in. And if you did a clubhouse renovation 3 years ago and you're still paying that loan, you shouldn't, hopefully not for 10 or 15 years, but 3 years out, it's nice to know that ends in 2 years. People get fatigued. They're like, why are my dues this much and I'm not getting anything extra? I'm not getting anything new. Well, it's because we have debt service to this loan. So I would say to all board members, 5 to 7 years on a loan. That's all people can remember and take before they start getting upset that their dues aren't giving them more, in my opinion. That's my opinion of.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the feedback coming back of the couple boards that I've had do the loan is homeowners and boards don't want to put themselves in that debt because they're also digging themselves deeper out of their reserves to not reserve for that item down the road. So they're really kicking the can versus solving the problem for that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you have to remember that everything that you're reserving for is cyclical, right? That pool plaster only lasts 10 years. And then as soon as you do it, you're saving again to do it in 10 years. Roofs, as soon as you put it on, that's a longer life, but you're immediately starting to save again to do that roof in 25 years. Everything's cyclical. You have to do it and immediately start saving for it. I agree. The other thing, too, I think they need to understand is special assessments, board ratifications, dues increases, they all have different voting thresholds. And I think sometimes everybody gets caught up in that. So if I haven't read your documents and I'm just kind of going by general rules or statutes, if the board typically has an amount that they can raise the dues without coming to you to vote for it. So sometimes it's the CPI. Sometimes it's 10%, sometimes it's 5%. If they say, hey, we need a 10% dues increase, and that's within their realm, then when they go to the annual meeting, they just have to ratify that budget, which means that budget passes unless 51% of the members reject it. So it's pretty much going to pass because 51% of the members never show up at an annual meeting in the first place. And then if they want to go, let's say 10% is their threshold and they want a 15% vote, when they get to the annual meeting, then you have to vote for that increase. So then 51% of the homeowners, either at that meeting or in general, have to say, I approve the 15% increase because it's over their threshold. And then if you want to do a special assessment, that's usually 67% of the entire community has to say yes. It's usually much higher. Sometimes it's 75%, but statute is usually 67 if there's no other rule.
And that's the most difficult part is getting people to participate. I don't think they realize that they are the HOA. I think a lot of the misconception is the management company is the HOA, or you send out ballots and they don't understand like that's their voting right. Like they are the HOA. They are the membership.
Yeah.
So participation we find is low hard to get these things.
Which is crazy to me because of all of the social media, I hate an HOA, but you and I both know you get to an annual meeting and nobody's there. Mm-hmm. Like this is your time. Mm-hmm. This is the one time you decide who's on the board. You decide how they spend the money. And you get to decide. They don't get to decide without you. So show up, make the decision, but they don't. And then it's a weird contradiction of how much HOA hate there is, and then no one's coming to the meeting to help make any of the decisions.
Yeah. I mean, I think me personally, when I bought in my HOA, I had no idea. I got talked into going to the meeting by my neighbor, and I didn't know what a budget was. I didn't know. I knew I had to pay dues, But that was about the extent. I generally didn't even read the notices that went out. I knew I was paid and I was good.
I think that's everybody, to be honest.
Yeah.
What is your lowest annual meeting turnout? Mine was one board member came to the annual meeting and it lasted 13 minutes.
Oh, I was going to say, at least had the board show up, but I had one homeowner.
I didn't even have the whole board. One board member, 13-minute annual meeting. We were done. So that, I think, is how you get the budget put together or how you think about what you're going to spend. But there's also reserves. And I think not a lot of attention gets put to they have to think of the reserves as an expense line item on that budget. Like that has to be a line item. And do you know how much that amount should be? And I know when we take over communities from other management companies, they're like, it's just whatever's left over that goes there. Income minus expenses, and that goes there.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like sometimes they've had a reserve study and they know what things cost, but they didn't do a schedule of putting a certain portion for when that thing comes due. That they just look at and they're like, oh, we have 50,000 in the bank or 300,000, but that thing coming up in 5 years might be 800,000.
Yeah. And reserve I think a reserve study, if you can afford a reserve study, I think they're a great tool. But when you get them back, I'll be honest, even as long as I've done it, I'm like, I don't know how to dig into this thing first.
That's a lot.
It's a lot, and so you have to take a deep breath and dig in. And then I always try to pull it out into the spreadsheet for them, like to the reserve schedule. But if you're smaller and you can't afford a reserve schedule or a reserve study, then you should at least do a schedule, because a reserve study is going to come down to every board you replace, every sidewalk square. It's a lot. But I have a clubhouse, I have a pool, I have a parking lot, I have an entrance sign, I have landscaping. You can say, I know I have these things, and how much do they cost?
Mm-hmm.
And then you say, okay, when I got the bid for how much they cost, I asked, how long do they last? And then I know that how much they cost divided by how much they last is, well, how much I need to put into reserves every year for that one line item. And then I have to decide, okay, how long have I had it? So you can decide how much you have to have in reserves by saying how long it lasts minus how long I've had it times how much was I supposed to put in every year. And that tells you what you should have. And that's a good thing about a reserve study is you have an engineer telling you that. But if you don't want to pay for that, at least go through the exercise of looking around your community and saying, hey, especially if you have condos, I have roofs, I have painting, I'm responsible for the lights, I'm responsible for the signs, and start collecting bids and lifespans so that you understand what you have. And we try to do that for you at Main Street.
And update it periodically.
Yeah. Yeah. You can
throw it out for a bid to make sure that you're reserving the right amount, because if you did have a reserve study, what you were told to budget from that engineer, what it was worth 6, 7, 8 years ago might have doubled by now.
Especially
and you're not reserving enough.
If you got that before COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's two ways to do it. You can either add 3% every year to your budget number, or you can say every 3 to 5 years, or sometimes you just leave it and 3 years out from when you want to do it, you go get the bid, because that will give you a better number and see if you're on track, I think. But so boards need to know what to reserve. That's really important. And then they ask me all the time, is there a state statute? There isn't. It's just you need to know what you have and what you are going to replace. But at the bare minimum, it was 10%. This year it changed. Federal mortgage lenders look for 15% of your income. So I always say, well, if you need a bare minimum, 15% of the income of your association needs to go to reserves, so that everybody getting a federal mortgage, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, can get a mortgage, because that'll be one of the requirements for you to do so. Let's shift gears and talk about things that we see as board members, I don't want to say mistakes, but misconceptions maybe when you're doing a budget. And I'm always like, oh, hi, I know we're new to you, but let me try to explain this. You cannot make your budget come out right by lowering a line item. And if you can see that you consistently spend 20 grand in maintenance every single year and you don't want to raise dues, don't drop maintenance line item to $15,000 to make that budget zero out.
Yeah.
Like, that
I
is
see it a
such a
lot with
mistake.
roofs. They're trying to avoid that roof replacement, and consistently over time there's been 20 to 30,000 in roof leaks and repairs, and reducing it to try to get a better number
Yeah.
to band-aid the roofs, and then just being over budget.
Yeah, I see that a lot too. When they want to do it themselves, it's like, okay, well, you can't just knock this one line item down and hope that you don't spend it this year.
For irrigation.
Yeah. The other thing too is that when you put a reserve schedule together, even the reserve study, is that these are your needs, but people have wants. And so you can't have such a skinny line item budget that you don't have any contingency or room for improvement. So even if your budget says, I need to put $10,000 a year into reserves and I should have 200,000 and I have exactly 198, so we're good. It's okay if it goes over a little bit, because the things that are not typically in the reserve study are, let's redo the entrance monument so it looks more modern, or let's do a complete landscaping overhaul. No one puts that in the reserve study because plants have a life and they overgrow and they look too big for the space. Every once in a while, you got to pull those out or change your signage. Like, those are things that people don't think about, is that it's much easier to get dues and for people to feel like you're spending the money if they all correctly, is if you always give them something they want, not just what they need. I always say that to boards. If you're passing a special assessment and it's for roofs, or it's roofs you can see, but sometimes it's for like the drainage system. You have to fix this drainage system. And so they need to do a special assessment to do that. No one's going to see that work that got done, and you've asked them for the special assessment. I always say, think of something also that they want and put them together in the special assessment, like new landscaping. We're going to do this drainage system, and then we're going to landscape it and put a gazebo at the end. And then people feel like they got something for their money. It's just sort of psychological, but it does help people feel like their money is going towards something good, because in a couple of years, when homeowners have changed or they forget why you explained to them why this was so important, they're going to feel like, what are my dues paying for?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I just recently had a board meeting, and, they're very close with having to do roof replacements and really trying to boost those reserves. Yet they also have a bunch of matured plants in the front, and they're above the windows, and you can't hard prune them, and they really just need to come out. So, a plan was presented like, hey, we know roofs are coming, but we'd also like to improve the look. And this is kind of what we've presented. These are the type of plants. And it did give a positive, something that would really change the look of the community and add more value.
The other thing too, I would say, as a board thing is, boards turn over every year. So you may have a board that worked really hard to get from a reserve of $20,000 to a reserve of 170 when they probably need 200. And then you elect a new board and you get a guy that says, we have $170,000. We should do something with that. And then suddenly, he's wanting to replace the monuments, and none of this is in the reserve schedule, and none of the old board members that worked so hard to get that money. And so you're standing there as the manager having to explain, you can't spend that money. Like, this is not for that. Don't let the reserves burn a hole in your pocket,
Yeah. or wanting to spend things that they legally can't. Like, all the mailboxes look rough. So let's do it collectively. If we do everybody,
Right. In a single family community.
Yes.
You cannot spend money on things your declaration doesn't expressly say is what the money gets spent on. Yeah. Well, gosh, we get that all. Well, in my community, we're going through that now because everybody's mailbox looks bad and they have to have the numbers are peel and stick, but they're they're gold and they're a fancy font, and you have to go to a sign person and they print the whole set of numbers. So you just have to scratch them off in a row. And they're like, well, we should buy them for everybody. I'm like, I get how easy that would be, but you can't just buy the numbers for everybody because our documents say we don't maintain that thing. They have to maintain that thing.
Right.
So even it's a little thing, but board members need to read their documents. And if you don't want to read them, stick them in ChatGPT and ask your questions. But what can I pay for? What can't I pay for? All right, let's shift gears and talk about what, if you're a homeowner and you're at your annual meeting, what should you be asked? Like, this is your one chance. What should you be asking? Or what should you be looking for? Or how do you know if the board is doing a good job? Or if you have the guy that wants to spend the money, like what do you need to ask?
I think I have to go back to like when I showed up to my first annual meeting. It's just, and I tell a lot of other homeowners because they don't know what they're doing or why they're there, is ask your potential board members running for the election, how, things they're passionate about in the community or what they'd like to spend money on or where they see needs improvements to know how they're going to spend money or what decisions they might make. And then just looking at the budget in general to see if it's balanced, if it makes sense, what they're looking to spend for next year.
Yeah, are doing anything crazy. One thing I would say is when they present the budget to you, don't accept just the current budget. Like if I'm going into a meeting next month and it's my annual meeting and it's my budget for 2027, they better not just give me the 2027 budget. You better also give me 2026 budget and then the estimated for the year so that at this meeting I understand if you are spending money correctly. Like you can't just give me the 2027 budget. That really tells me nothing. Did the expenses go up? Does income need to go? It tells you nothing. It's not enough. So make sure that they're giving you the current year budget, the current year estimated expenses till the end of the year, and then the 2027 budget. We actually, sometimes we can't because we just take you over from another management company. But if we've had you for a while, you may have 5 to 10 years of actual budgets, what we spent year over year, so that you can say, oh, I see why dues have to go up. The electricity has gone up a lot. The water's gone up a lot. We're getting older and our maintenance is going up a lot. So make sure you ask that and you get that. I mean, that's actually why I joined my board, which I said I would never do because I do this all day. I don't want to go home and do it at night. And I just didn't want to, but I'm at my annual meeting. We have a management company that is not us. And they gave us just 2026. It was last year's meeting. They gave us just 2026. And I'm looking at it. I don't know. Is this good? Is this bad? Did you just raise general maintenance a lot over there's not enough there. And so I just said, okay, well, I just have one question. How did we do this year? And I had just happened to see in the minutes because I was looking before I went into this meeting for something. And I know that they had a budget meeting. The board had a budget meeting 3 weeks ago. And I said, so how did we do? How are we doing this year? Are we over budget, under budget? No one could answer the question. And then someone in the audience said, well, ask the manager. She's here. And she said, well, I don't have the numbers in front of me. I was like, what? This is not good. Like you just literally sat down at a table and hashed this budget out 3 weeks ago and you have no idea how we're doing. You can't even answer generally. Like we were under budget, we're over budget, we need to rate like nothing. And yeah, so when they called for board members, I I did not raise my hand. And then it was like nobody and nobody. I was like, okay, I won't do it. So I'm learning a lot though. I have to say, being a manager, I didn't understand, even though I've done it a long time now that I'm on the board, like my eyes are open more. Like it's taught me a lot. I understand more from their perspective than I did before. So,
Yeah. I mean, we've always, as a Main Street policy, try to make sure that our managers go prepared and we have the budget versus actual sheet. If we have previous, years, statistics of spending, to bring that. And then also with like when you go for like condos and townhomes that have, say, exterior expenses or landscape other, or things that, you try to put a budget line item, but sometimes maybe you went over, or pool other is to print out that whole GL of expenses for that year to know, because the homeowner is going to say, why were we over budget? And you might say, well, the pool pump blew, or the fob system was hit by electricity and we had to, replace the panel for $1,700. Certain expenses happen throughout the year that you just don't prepare for. So being able to answer those questions, because I think a lot of homeowners come into HOA meetings thinking that somebody's spending the money incorrectly, board members pay themselves, things like that. So,
yeah, I would say if you are hiring a management company, you need to make sure that the financials are transparent. So for us, every single month, the homeowners get the financial packet. We do pull out homeowner delinquencies and we do pull out bank statements for the corporate safety, but we show them every invoice we paid. We show every financial report. And then on the website, every month, the board can see the invoices as we pay them. They can see the bank state balances every single day on time. So make sure that when you're hiring a management company, you are getting someone who is completely transparent with that. Like, you shouldn't even need an annual audit because you should be able to pull everything down as a board member, and the math should work for everything, right? So what you've been through your annual meeting. Everyone should try the board one time. I'll just say that. I think you should take your turn, everyone, because you will learn so much on this side of the table. But you're a homeowner, you've been through your annual meeting, but what if you're the homeowner that you need to buy a home in a community? I just bought a townhome, but because I do what I do, I knew what to ask and had more access, and I understood what things said. But I was like, I looked at the financials. I bought into a community who needed roofs, but had almost $2 million in the bank. So that wasn't going to be a special assessment. You want to make sure that they have the money. Ask them to see a budget. Ask them to see a balance sheet. If they have a reserve study, ask to see that and see what the reserve study says should be in the bank, and then make sure it is. Make sure that the budget contains reserve savings. Make sure that you are buying into something financially sound, I would say.
Yeah. And know when your dues are due and that you have to pay them.
And they almost never come out of your escrow payment. I've never seen it. It doesn't happen. I don't know why that gets confused sometimes, but you are responsible for your dues.
Yep. Yeah. They think it's tied in with their taxes and insurance and bundled in and paid on a yearly.
It is not. I was on Reddit the other day, because you know how I like to troll the hater groups just to see what's going on. But anyway, there was a story. We said, hey, he's like, I bought into the HOA and got charged a special assessment right away. And everybody, of course, was like, did you even ask about the financials? And one guy said something I thought was pretty poignant. He said, buying a home is kind of like buying a Porsche. You want that car, and that Porsche maintenance, like, if you were smart, you'd go in there and ask about like how much more tires were than on, a regular American-made car, how much maintenance was. But you don't care about that when you want that Porsche. You just want that Porsche. and you're going to buy that Porsche and you're going to worry about the rest of that later. And I think that's true about home buying. Especially if you're looking for a home and you want certain things, like I was just recently shopping. I really wanted my townhome to have this and to have that and to have the back patio. And I was looking for those things. It was, even for me, the financial health of the community and who was on the board and all that was secondary to me getting into that home. And I think that's probably true of everybody, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, of course. Because, you think when you're going into a home and you're like, oh, I can picture my pet there or my kid there or, the neighbors. I'm in a cul-de-sac, how fun that would be. And, you think, okay, I've got dues to pay and they're going to cover that. And, you don't think about, are we underspending? Are we overspending? Are we, what could be coming up? So
yeah, I'll worry about that later.
Half the time after you close, we get how do I get access to the pool? Like,
yeah.
They didn't get that at closing and things. They know they had a pool and they have a tennis court and all the amenities, but it didn't dawn on them before you sign on the dotted line. How am I going to get access to that? And
yeah.
So
it's never, how much are the dues?
Mm-hmm.
Are the dues paid? When do I owe dues next? It's just, how do I get to the pool? No, that's true. All right, so let's sum up today's podcast. If you're a board member and you want to do a project in 2027, like before Friday, you need to tell your manager what project you want to do. Like, you are running out of time for her to get a bid and not be drowning in other stuff. Make sure that you're doing a realistic budget. Make sure you understand how much needs to go in reserves. How are you going to pay for that project? Like, your mind should be, that's where you should be right now. The budget's one of the most important things you do. Not who's parking where, not, whose trash can got left out, whose kid's bike's on the front lawn. Budgets. That is your fiduciary duty. It is the most important job you have, is how is the money getting spent. Yeah. And then if you're a homeowner, you get to the annual meeting, this is your chance to shine. So ask the questions, make sure that they can answer them, make sure that you see what happened this year, not just what they want to spend next year. And then, do you have access to these reports online? Can you see what's being spent every single month? And if you're buying a home, try to get a reserve study if you can. If you can't, at least ask for the budget. And if what they give you back has just the current year, can I have several years of budgets? You know what I mean? That way, even if you can't see the actuals, you could see, okay, this line item's going up and up and up, and why. And then,
and maybe even ask for minutes, to see what are they discussing, what's coming up. Maybe they didn't even put it in the budget, but they're kind of discussing if they could, or, maybe having a special assessment. So those discussions.
If you're struggling to get it from the management company, which we understand that is sometimes a problem out there, most of the time you just go back to the seller's agent, because the seller probably has access to a portal where they can pull that down. Or most management companies use a third party for closings, and those things are on there. You might have to pay $15 to get copies, but they're there. You can get them from there. And it's important. Pay the $15. It's important.
Yeah. Peace of mind.
All right. So hopefully that was information that board members can use, homeowners can use, prospective buyers can use, because a healthy community is built on realistic budgets, proactive reserve planning, and complete financial transparency. From board members to buyers, having the right financial guidance makes the difference. At Main Street Management Group, we provide our boards with clear, easy-to-read financials, so there are never any end-of-the-year surprises. Visit us at mainstreetmanagers.com to learn how we help communities stay on track. Have a question about your HOA's budget or a story from the past annual meeting? Reach out to us through our contact form on the website, and don't forget to follow Main Street on socials and subscribe to Let's Talk HOA on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music, or iHeartRadio, or anywhere you listen to your favorite podcasts so you never miss an episode. For Main Street Management Group, I'm Kelly Hawkins, and Diana Bonneau, thank you. I know this was a big deal for you, and we'll see you next time.